From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Bursell. This is The Log. Now let's catch up on a couple of headlines here. Well, first of all, the ridiculous address to the nation by the Orange Menace. Of course, I didn't even bother. I don't know why anyone bothers. And that's really the only thing I have to say about it. It was all nonsense, as anyone should have expected. It was just a series of lies and cliches and blathering. I mean, what else did you expect? I'm going to continue to beg the media to just stop the nonsense. Write this as your lead. Look straight into the camera and tell your viewers, we're all done with him. He can't be taken seriously ever. We're not going to cover anything he says anymore. Because none of it matters. He just spits out whatever he thinks will get him through the moment. It doesn't matter what he says. He's still the president, so if, for example, he signs an executive order, we'll still cover that, because that's news in the sense that it's 100% illegal, and it will have to go through various courts, possibly up to the Supreme Court, to reverse it. And in the meantime, it can cause a great deal of damage. Look no further than the East Wing of the White House to prove that point. So yeah, we'll still cover him in that sense. But when he opens his stupid little orange anus mouth to blurt out his nonsense, we're not going to cover that anymore, ever. For God's sakes, Ezra Klein, who I've mentioned a few times, who I just can't stand. Big old banner headline over his column and his podcast. What is Trump thinking? What? I don't know how we can even take these people seriously anymore as journalists, as reporters, as editorialists. What is Trump thinking? You know the classic sort of Simpsons meme where all the images in Homer's head are nothing but beer and boobs? Yeah, whatever's going on in that orange head, we'll never know. What we know for sure, it's nothing we want to see. But because the American news media is just hell-bent on covering this nonsense, I do feel the need to come in and straighten a few things out. Just in case you don't know, there is no end to the war in Iran except just stopping it. Just saying it's over and putting the planes back in their hangars. There's no solution. There's no deal. There's no nothing. The Strait of Hormuz will not open automatically. Iran will continue to block, in whole or in part. They will certainly charge massive tolls. The global oil market will remain a hostage. Gas prices will remain high. The Orange Menace and his inner circle fantasies, or more accurately, talking points devised to mollify the rest of us, are nonsensical lies. Telling the world to buy our oil because we produce a lot of oil, as though that's going to be some great deal for them. It's a global market. Prices will remain high. There's nothing we can do about that. Also, very important to note that war crimes have now been openly suggested on several occasions, including the most recent address to the nation. Yeah, threatening the grid, hitting desalination plants, civilian infrastructure, bomb them back to the Stone Ages. Yeah, that's a war crime. That's the war crime. That's drag you into The Hague and put you in jail for the rest of your life kind of war crimes. So the president of the nation you live in is threatening war crimes and would absolutely carry them out, I have no doubt, notwithstanding his reputation for chickening out, because he's that stupid and he's that evil. Now, I need to mention one other thing just for a second, because we've talked a lot about this. The people who enable him. I just want to mention one very important point, because we've been hearing now for the last couple of weeks their favorite talking point, that Iran has been, quote, attacking us for almost 50 years. Or they'll often use the 47-year mark. Iran has been attacking us for 47 years. And it's high time we fight back. Well, that is just a preposterous lie. They get the 47 years because, of course, that's the end of Jimmy Carter's presidency, and it's the revolution in Iran. It's the taking of American hostages. 1979. Yeah, that was bad. We are retaliating now, after 47 years? Oh no, there have been continuous attacks. Well, no, not at all. What's the other big one we hear? What's the other big attack we hear about? Ah, very good. Okay, you knew that. 1983, the Beirut bombings. That, of course, included the killing of 241 Americans at a Marine barracks. So not Iran, but an Iranian proxy. Hezbollah. Okay. Let's see, let's do the math on that. 1983, that would be 43 years ago. All right, we're responding to that. And not for 1 second get the idea that I'm defending the attack on Marines in Lebanon. No, I'm not defending that at all. I am saying that it was part of a larger conflict. There was shooting and bombing going both ways. It was not just a, hey, you know what? We hate Americans. Let's kill some of them. Again, I'm not defending. No. Don't get that impression at all. I'm not. No, it was part of a conflict, as was every other incident that they might name. And they can only find a handful of others. 1 American killed. 1 CIA agent killed. You can count them on one hand over this infamous 47-year window. All of them part of shoot-em-ups. Bullets flying both ways. The address to the nation, the entire Iran fiasco, is nothing but nonsense and lies by a bunch of clowns and amateurs. The closest thing you have to a professional in this whole menagerie is maybe Marco Rubio? If that's the standard? Jesus. I mean, yeah, of course you've got the Joint Chiefs, you've got the military leaders, but they do what the civilians at the Pentagon tell them to do. That's the way our country works. Civilian leadership of the military. So I'm not going to sit here and blame General Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, who will often stand side by side with Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War Crimes. General Kane is just doing his job. So I'm not going to blame him. Someday, when this is all over, he'll write a book. And even then, he's going to be very diplomatic. He's going to be very fair and very temperate. But we'll know. We'll know the truth. Well, what else? Oh, blame the women. Attorney General Pam Bondi loses her job. Yeah, Orange Menace 2.0 has been relatively stable compared to the first go-round. They went a whole year without firing any big names. A whole year plus. But then Kristi Noem, director of DHS, got the boot. And now Pam Bondi, Attorney General, shown the door. Yeah, let's get all the women out of here. Tulsi Gabbard, you better start arranging for your U-Haul. You may have to move out of that military base you're currently living in. Yeah, Pam Bondi gone. And again, the big difference between Orange Menace 2.0 and the first go-round. The first time, cabinet members were fired because they weren't sufficiently loyal. That's not the problem here. Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi, 1,000% loyal. They just didn't get the job done. Pam Bondi, unable to get convictions on everybody on the enemies list. Unable to make the Epstein files go away. So, no fan of Pam Bondi, but what the hell else could she do? Yeah, and of all this menagerie as I've described them, so far just 2 high-profile women, with 1 more high-profile woman to go. Unless, you could include, let's see, there's also Susie Wiles, White House Chief of Staff. She seems to be untouchable, though. Never, ever in the news. So that's a plus on her side. Yeah, get the women out of there. We need more white men. Todd Blanche, acting AG, possible next AG. Mark Wayne Mullen, new Director of Homeland Security. By the way, did you know why his name is Mark Wayne? According to his mother, They wrote both names on the birth certificate because they couldn't decide which one they liked better. His name was going to be either Mark or Wayne. So they put them both down, thinking they would decide later, and they just never got around to it. So it remained Mark Wayne. So that's the origin of that name. Wow. All right. So, yeah, blame the women. Yeah, I mean, if a mob boss has to have henchmen around him, it's henchmen. It's not henchwomen. No, have you ever heard the term henchwoman? No, it's henchman. I want to mention a couple of stories before they get too far back in the rearview mirror. And they might seem frivolous, but I think they're worth a mention. And that is the Erica Kirk story and the comic Drewski. I'll bet you know about that. And the other one is the Kristi Noem's husband's kink. Let's start with Drewski. Drewski is a comic, and he produced this hilarious video where he impersonated Erica Kirk, the widow of slain Charlie Kirk. She's a widow, so maybe this is kind of mean. Okay, maybe. Yeah, probably. And I don't really want to get into the minutia of what comedy is and what comedy isn't. We've talked about this in the past. I'm mostly a free speech purist. I do criticize comics when they punch down, and you know what I mean by that. If the aim of their joke, especially if it's sarcastic, if it's a ridiculing, if their aim is at a marginalized community, then that's not comedy, that's bullying. I was pretty vocal about Dave Chappelle and the liberties he took making jokes about the trans community. For a couple of reasons. One, it was punching down, as I just described. But two, he offered these so-called jokes as a part of some very serious commentary. There's no hiding behind that shield of, oh, I'm just a comedian. He was absolutely doing social commentary. There was no getting around that. So yeah, I can be critical of comedians. This Drewski situation with Erica Kirk, for me, is pretty clear. She's a public figure, and she's willingly, purposely put herself in the spotlight. And she does outrageous things. She's got the crazy eyes, which she seems to do on purpose. Some people have crazy eyes. You know what I mean. The eyes are open a little too wide. We're seeing too much of the white, surrounding the entire iris. That's not just her natural look. She turns the key. She turns it on. She'll look right in the camera and give you the crazy eyes, as though making a point, like, I will get you. She has a habit of walking out to fireworks. Even at her husband's memorial, there were fireworks shooting up from the stage. So she's a very public figure, and she does very odd things, and she says very strange things, like we have to protect our young men, especially white young men. So she is absolutely 1,000% fair game for a comedian. And if you haven't seen the Drewski videos, they're pretty damn funny. And it's kind of like when Tina Fey did Sarah Palin back in the day. There was one appearance where she just spoke Sarah Palin's words verbatim. The actual words. Didn't change them at all. And got hella laughs, as we used to say back in those days. Well, that's exactly what Drewski did. He used Erica Kirk's words verbatim, looked in the camera wearing his blonde wig and giving the crazy eyes, and it was hilarious. I am often on the fence about certain issues. I'm not sure where I stand. I'm still exploring. There is no fence on this one. Drewski's videos were damn funny. Erica Kirk is fair game. And her accusations of racism and cruelty are ridiculous. So I just wanted to weigh in on that. And then the other story, kind of thing I might not normally weigh in on. If you haven't heard, Kristi Noem recently fired as Secretary of Department of Homeland Security, it was discovered that her husband has a kink. He visits websites featuring something they called bimbofication, where people dress up outrageously with very outrageously large breasts and kind of look like Barbie dolls or something. Basically just a kind of a fetish site. And he talks with models, and he himself dressed up in this fashion. He used balloons, very, very large balloons that he put under his shirt, and he wears a wig. Okay, so he's got a kink. You know, good for him. I'm so tired of slut shaming and kink shaming. I don't think there's any aspect of American culture that's more screwed up than sex. On one hand, we exploit it for advertising. We have to include sex in movies. It has nothing to do with the plot. Just you have to have it in there to draw an audience. This sophomoric titillation. And then there's shows like The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. And they're sleeping together. And so the way we exploit sex is gross and disgusting. I have way more respect for the porn industry than I have for advertisers and network reality TV shows. And then we have the whole right-wing, conservative, Christian nationalist, MAGA. I don't know what they're doing. They're so preachy and they're so prudish. And this story that broke with Kristi Noem's husband. The big headline was that Kristi Noem was mortified and she's asking for privacy as though this is some big catastrophe. The guy's got a kink. Don't we all have something? I would share mine with you, but that's the whole point. You don't share these things. That's his right. So whoever exposed him, whoever exposed those pictures, for whatever reason, I don't know. But then her reaction was just disgusting. Stop shaming people. Because that's the other side of the coin on where American culture is so screwed up on sex. On one side, we exploit it. We can't get enough of it. But then the other side of the coin is, oh, now we have to pretend that it's so scandalous. And the whole MAGA world, oh my God, we could spend hours talking about the sexuality of MAGA. What is going on with these guys? The whole right wing is so screwed up sexually. I'm pretty well convinced now that the Orange Menace himself is bi. Who else talks about big, strong men glistening in sweat? Oh, they're big, tough guys. They got muscles, man. It's so odd the way he talks about strong men. I've never known a hetero man to talk like that, ever. And J.D. Vance is just one of several MAGA men who have dabbled in cross-dressing. We've seen the photos. Poor Lindsey Graham just can't come out of the closet. Everybody knows. And he knows everybody knows, and everybody knows everybody knows. They just finished the CPAC recently. Chairman Matt Schlapp, a well-known diddler of young men. All these poor people, if they could just come out of the closet, I feel so bad for them. But for whatever reason, they were born into a culture and raised in a culture where they just couldn't do it, so they have to stay in the closet. And then they become self-loathing. And it's just, I mean, look at Mike Johnson, for God's sakes. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Mike Grinder Johnson. Oh, speaking of Grinder, it's often reported every time there's a Republican gathering, whether it's CPAC or the Republican National Convention or whatever it is, Grinder crashes. It just goes off the charts. Of course, Grinder is a hookup app for gay men, primarily. And then the women. My God, the women. With the whole Mar-a-Lago MAGA face. What is happening? The big blonde hair and the surgically enhanced boobs and the giant lips. This weird white woman MAGA look. And all of these psychotic sexual hang-ups seem to be exclusively in the camp of the MAGAs and the right-wingers. I mean, sure, you can find sex scandals throughout history on all sides of the aisle, and I'm not defending any of it, but it's the kind of stuff that happens on all corners of the political spectrum. The closeted, self-loathing, slut-shaming, and kink-shaming, and this bizarre way of presenting, yeah, the right wing owns that. It's just sad. And I don't claim to be an analyst. I'm not going to psychoanalyze these people. But the Occam's razor analysis is that, yeah, they're just oppressed and suppressed their whole lives. They're taught from the earliest childhood that they should hate themselves, that they should be ashamed of themselves. And so it drives them into further and further deviant behavior. Jesus, these poor people. Oh well. I went much further into that than I had originally intended on this Passover Easter weekend. Hope you all had a good one. All right. Well, we got to talk a little bit about this ridiculous war. First of all, thank goodness, all 3 pilots now rescued. Of course, as you know, 2 jet fighters shot down, 2 of the pilots rescued immediately, but then 1 missing for over 48 hours and rescued over the weekend. So, we're all very happy about that. God, that would have been terrible for so many reasons. I mean, the obvious reason, we don't want to lose anybody. We don't want anybody to die or suffer. It also could have been a capture, which Iran certainly would have used for propaganda purposes. And I'm certain it would have worked on a lot of Americans. Got a lot of people really mad and angry to see an American hostage in Iran. Damn, what's more triggering than that? So it could have been awful. I mean, this could have been just really awful. So thank goodness. 2 Black Hawk helicopters were fired on during the rescue. 2 jet fighters had to be destroyed, apparently because of mechanical failure behind enemy lines. So rather than allow the Iranians to have that intelligence, they had to destroy those 2 aircraft. And then others had to come in, obviously, and take the military personnel to safety. And I feel the need to share with you a warning. Please, for the love of God, don't let this pilot rescue in any way glamorize the war. I mean, they're already trying to Top Gun this thing. The language, the spin, the way they're describing this, the way they're covering it. Of course we're happy that all 3 pilots are safe. Of course we are. But don't let them exploit the situation to propagandize you, to spin you into their little fantasies about this disgusting war crime that they're conducting. I mean, propaganda works. Let's be honest about it. The vast majority of Israeli citizens approve of the Iran war. They approve of the Gaza genocide, for God's sakes. We talked about how Israel controls the media narrative, how they censor the media, exactly in the way that our fascist regime is attempting to censor our media. Don't let short-term, on-your-screen today stories divert you from the big picture. As one commentator put it over the weekend, a successful military mission is not a successful strategy. I thought that was a good comment. No, because there is no strategy. This is a colossal mistake, a massive ego stroke for the Orange Menace. It's a modern-day anti-Muslim crusades for Pete Hegseth and the Christian nationalists. And it's the long-awaited wet dream come true for the neocons and the warhawks. Do not lose your resolve or your clarity. This is a massive series of war crimes, top to bottom, including in Lebanon and Gaza. It's an illegal war of aggression, and the United States and Israel are the aggressors. Hell, the Pope agrees with that. He made comments last week and then again on Easter Sunday. Archbishop Timothy Broglio is the leader of all U.S. military Catholic chaplains. And he said in a weekend interview that this is not a just war. That's Archbishop Timothy Broglio, who heads the Catholic Archdiocese for the Military Services. The action in Iran is not justified under just war theory. And then to expand on the intent of war crimes, the Orange Menace on Easter Sunday again doubled down on his threats to go after civilian infrastructure, threatening power plants, bridges. The U.S. has already hit 1 civilian bridge, confirmed, and a desalination plant, claimed. I haven't seen confirmation on that one yet. Open the effing strait, he spelled it out, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Praise be to Allah. He signs it. I don't know what the hell. Yeah. The regime must be removed immediately. Removed. Impeachment, 25th Amendment, whatever it takes. The entire regime, at the very least, the Orange Menace, the Vice President, top cabinet, Rubio, Hegseth, removed. 13 Americans killed so far, 300 wounded. Estimated killed in Iran between 2,000 and 3,500. Over 20,000 wounded, half of them civilians. In southern Lebanon, 1,400 killed, over 4,000 wounded. And in Gaza, since the so-called ceasefire, over 13,000 killed, almost 60,000 wounded. Total death toll now for Palestinians, well over 72,000. Almost 200,000 injured. Yeah, these are war crimes. These are crimes against humanity. Don't let one good news story about one pilot, and it is good news, I'm not diminishing that for a second, don't let it distort the truth. This, like all wars, and perhaps even more so, will find truth long after it's said and done. We're not getting it day to day. We're not getting the story on all these military personnel fired. Secretary of War Crimes Pete Hegseth, he's fired 26 generals and admirals in the last 14 months, the majority of whom were women or black. Has blocked or delayed promotions for more than a dozen black and female senior officers. So he is absolutely pursuing his white Christian nationalist agenda within the ranks of the military. And now, just in recent days, Pete Hegseth fired 3 generals. Randy George, Army Chief of Staff, 4-star general. General David Hodney and Major General William Green Jr., U.S. Army Chief of Chaplains. Yeah, he fired the Chief of Chaplains on Easter weekend. Chaplain William Green Jr., probably not coincidentally a black man. Definitely not the particular brand of Christian nationalism of Pete Hegseth, who is presiding over religious services. He's conducting religious services with military personnel, but only the right kind of personnel. You have to qualify. You have to be simpatico with Hegseth's twisted idea of Christianity. Why would you fire these high-ranking officers in the middle of a war? Reports so far are unable to confirm, but the heavy speculation is, I put in the category of duh. Well, the speculation is obvious. They're disagreeing with policy, might even be going so far as to refusing orders. Correct that. Refusing to commit war crimes. Nobody is reporting this as verified. It's speculation at this point, but come on. The speculation is pretty damn convincing. All right. This and all episodes can be heard at the website charlesburcell.com or on your favorite podcast platform. Thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio in Milwaukee. Find us on Blue Sky and Substack. Peter Donalds wrote and performed our theme song. All right, I love you. I'll see you out there.